Happy Friday. Well, it's Friday, May 16th, 2025, about 7 a.m. here in Northern California. And today I got a special guest on, a good friend of mine, an associate since 2022, Mr. Gabriel Bou. And again, the goal here is for all of you guys that follow me here on YouTube, TikTok, to get to know some of these rising telephone agents that have been partnered with us either several weeks or in this case several years. So I'm really, really looking forward to this chit chat with my good friend Gabriel Bou. Good morning, Gabriel. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
So, Gabriel, like I told you, we really don't have like an agenda of how we're going to take this conversation, but my goal is always to bring as much information as we can to the audience that tunes into my channel. For that agent that might be on the fence, deciding if this is an opportunity that they want to jump into. Listening to someone like yourself and to other agents that, I've brought onto my channel, helps. And I know this because I hear it from agents. They call me up and say, hey, man, really like, the story of such and such person. I relate to that person. In fact, I had one of my associates, Luis, when he heard Amador's interview, he totally identified with Amador's background and what he'd been through.
Yeah.
And guess what? He made the decision to re-engage in selling final expense. Pretty powerful stuff. So think about it. I have over 1,700 videos on my YouTube channel, but that particular video of Amador's interview basically motivated him to re-engage with us in business again. So it works. That's the goal. We want to be honest, want to be transparent, because we don't want to come off with a dog and pony show.
Mm.
We want all of you to get as much information so that way you can make a buying decision if this opportunity is good for you. Because there's always three things that people, when they're looking at an opportunity, that are focused on. One, who are these people? Two, what do these people do? And the third one is, can I do it? And that's typically the most important question anyone that's new to our business has to answer. But we know that those three elements exist. So, with that said, again, welcome, Gabriel Bou, and also Mr. Amador. Welcome for the training. And so, with that said, Gabriel, can you share with everybody, where do you live right now, this minute? Where are you located on planet Earth?
Right now I'm currently located right outside Medellin, Colombia, in Rio Negro, where the international airport is located.
And can you share with everybody just a little bit about your life as a virtual agent? In the last 3 years that you've been working with us, what your life's been like as a virtual agent.
Sure. I've been able to work from home and travel back and forth from the United States to Colombia, Panama, and Mexico, and really see the world outside of the United States and really dig into different cultures and earn US dollars from abroad, where obviously, the currency triples or doubles when you're outside of the United States.
And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel's not the only agent that we have on our team that are in the same bracket. I have several others that, live part time in Europe. They live in the US. Other ones are traveling through, different parts of the world, and they're plugging in to our platform working our lead system. Let that sink in. When I started selling insurance over the phone, especially, my dream was the idea of having my office, being able to stop knocking on doors, giving up the driving. Because for many years, I would tell people, if you're serious about door knocking and making a living selling insurance, door knocking, final expense, if you're going to go for that six-figure mark, how do you feel about putting 60 to 100,000 miles in your vehicle a year? And you know what? To me, that was one of the biggest benefits of giving up the door-to-door business, was that part of it that no one ever talks about. There's no way around it. If you're a successful final expense door agent, door-to-door agent, there's no way in hell that your car doesn't have at least 50,000 miles a year in your car. And this was the benefits of telephone sales, being able to give those up to start selling over the telephone. And that is obviously why we're here today. Today it's a lot with all the technology, now you can be in any parts of the world. But when I started, I was just looking to get out of those scenarios, right? Not to mention the freedom that comes with telephone sales, which is mind blowing. For me, obviously, I still have young children. But if my kids were growing up, I'd probably be doing exactly what you're doing, Gabriel. I spent maybe a month in Colombia enjoying all the fruits, the sun, especially Medellin is beautiful. Or, spend some time down in Cancun, rent a nice house on the beach at a fraction of the cost, right? It would have cost me to pick something up here in California, right? But here's the deal. I could still connect and take phone calls and work this business. So for all of you guys listening, if you're really, you're tired of knocking on doors, driving, telephone sales is the name of the game. And today and age, the technology, the lead quality is totally different. It's so much better. So let me ask you another couple questions, Gabriel. So can you share with everybody how we teamed up and, what you've been doing here with us, over the last 3 years that we've been working together, just so everybody can get an idea. Simply because when I tell people this, I say, look, I'm looking for self-motivated individuals. I'm not looking to be your boss. I'm not looking to micromanage anybody. You know, this is really, you do what you want to do. I'm just here to support and motivate and help. But can you share with everybody, what that's looked like for you in the last 3 years, and um, and why are you focused now 100% on FE?
Sure. So I met you, Lauro, through, I don't know if you remember, but through LinkedIn, and I sent you a friend request, and I had just got my license a few months prior to that. And I knew I wanted to do something significant in the insurance industry, but honestly, I had never sold insurance, and I didn't know how to sell insurance. And I found you on LinkedIn. I sent you a request, sent you a message, and we linked up. You got me contracted. You got me some leads. I went to work, and the first 6 months, I was able to produce $100,000 in analyzed premium. And then at that time, the healthcare space, Medicare and ACA, uh, sells you on the
So let me stop you there. So, ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what he said? $100,000 in annualized premium is what Gabriel wrote and issued in a six month span. And in his case, at that point in time, we were doing a lot of outbound dialing. That was his favorite. So 6 months, $100,000 on our platform, but doing outbound. Continue, Gabriel.
That's right. And at that time, I made the decision at that time erroneously to get into the Medicare space. And the Medicare lead costs are typically the same or higher than final expense, yet the sales cycles are longer. With Medicare, you're often paying 35 to $60 plus per lead, just like final expense, but the revenue per sales takes longer to materialize. You're putting in the same money or more money up front with less immediate return. Also, with the compliance, the Medicare has significantly more compliance than final expense with the disclaimers, SOA, scope of appointments, and the CMS rules that change every year. You can't just have a natural sales conversation. You really have to record every interaction. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Just have somebody at my door. Okay, sorry about that. I have someone at my door. And one mistake can cost you your license, or it can get you banned from the carrier. Unlike final expense, Medicare rarely offers any advances unless they just turn 65, which is rare. You're waiting months to get paid. And even then, it's a small monthly amount. There's no fast cash flow. If you need immediate income, Medicare is really a grind. And Medicare clients can easily switch plans or agents every annual enrollment period, so you're constantly rebuilding your book of business. And
Hmm.
you also have chargebacks that you have to deal with. So Medicare is a long-term residual play. You're not going to see any money until year 2 or 3 if your clients stay with you.
So let me
Final,
stop you there. So for all of you guys that are new, okay, you guys see the Medicare space and you see the renewals, and it's great. It's important you understand what this man is saying. Your lead cost is going to be the same or higher as it is with final expense. In our case, we charge $45 for an inbound, which is actually not very expensive considering the quality of the lead, but it's still a cost. And with Medicare, correct me if I'm wrong, Gabriel, you don't see a commission until how long after you make that Medicare sale?
like I mentioned, rarely are you going to get someone that just turned 65, and that's the only case you're going to get advance for the full year. And every other case or scenario, you're only going to get a small residual check every month. And it has to stay in the books for at least 2 years for you to recoup your investment and see a profit.
Wow. So that's important if you're new and you're looking at this space. Do you have the money in the bank to handle paying your bills every month as you're building out your Medicare block of business? And for a lot of agents, the answer is no. They don't have those kind of resources or those cash reserves to help them as they're building it out. Also, you talked about the retention. What's the challenge with that retention? If you can explain to everybody, especially for all the new people, bro, exactly what that means and why that's such a big deal.
Yeah, CMS has been trying to crack down on this. It also applies to ACA. People get cold called illegally on the Medicare and they get switched out to plans. And if you're not following up with your client, if you don't have a good relationship with them, they'll get switched. And this is something CMS is trying to crack down on because a lot of times they're not doing what's best for the client. They're just trying to make a sale.
Mm-hmm.
And every AAP, that customer has the opportunity to make a plan change as well. So
Right. That's obviously an issue. So on top of those challenges, ladies and gentlemen, you got to make sure that you're on top of your existing clients. Why? Because they can go somewhere else every year. That, if you don't have that on point, is also a loss.
yes,
Um,
with final expense, you can sell today, you get paid tomorrow, and you could avoid all these compliance.
yeah, compliance. Me and you have worked on a couple websites with CMS, and can you share with everybody exactly how that works and how challenging that process is?
Yes, we actually have a website. A lot of people call in for dental work, whether it's dentures or permanent implants. So we have a website marketing, um, dental services, and it's really difficult to get an approval. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. A certain language has to be included, and it's a very complex process in order to get a CMS approval on your marketing website.
Crazy. With final expense, obviously, we don't deal with that type of regulation because of simple products, simple process, and we don't have all those compliance issues. Not to mention the retention is going to be a lot higher than your ACA or even your Medicare block of business. I was talking to my partner, Jody. We sell a lot of leads to big ACA firms. And one of these big firms was telling us that their average retention rate for ACA was 30%. Let
Hmm.
that sink in, 30%. And they were looking to hire us to help them with that retention issue, increasing their retention 10, 15%. Imagine that. So when you're talking about that, you don't see a profit until 2 or 2.5 years later. Again, if you're a new agent, do you have the resources? And if the answer is no, then chances are you might be in some issues. So one thing I've always, known about Medicare is it's an absolute necessity. Health insurance is an absolute necessity. And in most of those cases, those products don't have like a price tag per se, right, Gabriel?
Right.
So when you're selling final expense, yes, you're paying $45 for an inbound, but you get advances, guys. And advances is the game changer between those two products because our average advance is about $500 and our closing ratios are 20%. This is benchmark.
Plus the
So you
renewals too.
plus the renewals, but you see the money within the first 30 days of making that sale. You see that first year advance commission, which not only helps you pay your leads, pay your taxes, and you make a little profit. And then here's the beautiful thing for all of you guys that are Medicare enthusiasts and love that market. The CMS guidelines state that as long as you have an existing relationship, then you can solicit them those services, right, Gabriel? Medicare, you can solicit as long as there's an established relationship.
That's right.
So if
And
you got
even
a final expense client, then you can say, what's the legal, how do you approach them legally, Gabriel? If they're your
even
existing client, how do you do that?
even if they think they have 12 or up to 24 months after the relationship has ended to get called back. So yes, if they're an existing client, you can call them and offer your services. You with Medicare you can't cold call, but since these are your clients on your book of business as a final expense policy, you can definitely call them and ask them if they would like to review their benefits and go ahead and switch them to a Medicare policy. And you've already invested in the lead. This is money you've already paid out. So essentially all these Medicare policies are just you're gonna make pure profit and not have any waste. And not to mention your retention is going to be higher because they have two policies with you. They have their final expense and they have their Medicare policy.
And guys, imagine if you're averaging 20 applications a month. That's one a day, Monday through Friday, and you're averaging 20 a month. 20. Most of our clients are people over 65 years old. I would say most of my clients are. A big percentage are people over 65, 65 or older. So if you're averaging 20 a month, a year, that's, let's see, that's 240 applications. How many of those do you think in those open enrollment seasons, do you think you'd be able to help them with their Medicare and those free health benefits that are out there for them? How many, Gabriel? If you had to give it a number.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So if you had 240 final expense clients, right? A
Hmm.
year, And at the end of the year, an open enrollment, right? Whether October or the beginning of January, how many of them do you think you'd be able to convert to your as a Medicare client for you out of those 240?
Um, I want to do what's best for the client. If they're on the best plan, I'm not gonna switch them and lower their benefits. But with that being said, to be conservative, I would say at least 25%, 30%.
25%. And here's the beauty, guys. And it costs you no lead money because it was offsetted by the final expense lead purchase that you did.
If
I
you're
mean,
broke or new, Medicare is gonna bury you. Final expense will fund you. Medicare is a marathon and final expense is a sprint. And sometimes that sprint is gonna pay better. If you want the long-term residuals, you start with final expense, stack your cash, and then ease into Medicare when you can afford to.
and I'll tell you right now, guys, we sell a lot of leads to health insurance agencies. And I can tell you most of the people that we sell leads to, it's not your independent agent, it's your broker, call center owners that have hundreds of people working virtually or working out of their physical call centers, selling Medicare or doing ACA, but they're making money by the hour. So why? Why is that? Because most of these agents do not have the resources to cover the cost, as Gabriel's breaking it down. All right. Well, Gabriel, man, thank you so much for breaking all that information down. It's definitely clear. But now let's talk about final expense, man. So the first 6 months that you teamed up with me, you did $100,000 in those 6 months, and then obviously over the last few years, you do what you want when you want. That was our deal from the beginning, and I'm totally okay with it. That's the way it should be. None of us want to work for a group or a company where they say you're a 1099 and independent, but they treat you like a glorified employee and they micromanage you. Nah, we don't operate that way. So, with you being around with us 3 years, what has really motivated you, again, for you to make that mental switch and that commitment to 100% telesales with senior life, and then the health insurance is the afterthought of that. Can you help everybody out there of what's helped you make that call?
Sure. I wanted to shorten my cash flow cycles and increase my income on a faster period of time. And I saw the other videos, just like Luis saw Amador's. I saw the other videos of the agents taking the inbound calls. And, I did deal with my grandma dying in January. It affected me personally, but last about a week ago, I made the decision to get out of my head, make the investment, buy my inbound leads, and get back on the program and start making some real money again.
And with that said, um, I gave you some freebies. There's no secret that I hook up my trainees with some freebies.
You did.
But can you share with everybody how many leads in total you've taken this week that you came back and what your results were?
Including the freebies?
I mean, share, the all the leads that you got. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've taken 33 inbound leads past the 2 minute marker. And that was starting last week.
so let me interject here. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's 33 inbound opportunities in a week's time, and of which there were some freebies in there that I helped Gabriel with and I helped my trainees with. But the point is, he took 33 of those. And what were your results?
I've closed 7 out of the 33. So that puts me at 21% conversion rate.
Okay. And what was your annualized premium?
Two of them were term policies because they were younger people that just ended up in my line, but I went ahead and sold them anyways. But I have $3,500 in annualized premiums.
And ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel has a great contract with us. And from those sales, it's obvious there's enough there to pay for his lead cost, pays taxes, and put a little money aside for himself and do it all over again. Can you share with everybody your experience and the lead quality? I know over the years, you've worked with all my leads over the years, but can you share with everybody exactly the difference of what you feel working these leads compared to maybe where we were at last year when you worked our leads or the year before that?
These leads are coming in hot. They are ready to buy. When you ask them, how can I help you? 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say they're calling about the final expense insurance. We have a 2 minute buffer so we can weed away anyone that's doesn't have the high intent. And that really helps us to talk to the most qualified people with their highest intention. They're calling in on the ad live, or if not, they're getting called back because they called in and no one answered through a call transfer, which is really good quality on the call transfers because they're vetted through the call center before to make sure that they have an account, to make sure that they're interested in buying. Um, so the quality is top notch.
And I honestly like the transfer element. And let me explain to everybody what that means. So, first of all of our leads are TCPA and DNC compliant. So we are doing zero, zero, zero cold calling. So let's avoid that conversation. Other centers that are selling transfers, I bet you anything, they're cold calling raw numbers, and that opens up a can of worms for a bunch of other stuff, compliance issues. But we follow those guidelines, TCPA, DNC. So when the clients see our advertisements on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Google, you name it, digital marketing, then they call in real time right then and there. And when they call into the call center, and an agent is either going to pick up the phone. But when we don't have an agent that's available, because that happens every single day, then we have an assigned call center staff that works for us, and their sole job is to answer those phone calls when the licensed agents are not available. And when they take that phone call, they screen for if they have dementia or in a nursing home, or if they have a checking or savings account prior to transferring your call. Now, if there's a dementia in there, they're going to weed that out of the call. And that wouldn't happen if you had a direct inbound because there's no one to weed that out. So I personally like that transfer element. What do you guys think? Would you agree on that?
Yes.
Or maybe what about you, Amador? Would you agree on that? Or do you like the direct inbound?
I like the direct inbound.
You like the direct inbound? Okay.
Yeah. People
Everybody,
calling me.
everybody has their preference. But again, ladies and gentlemen, these people called in regardless. If the licensed agent picks up the phone, showtime. But if no one's available, our call center staff does pick it up, they screen it, and then they reroute it back into our queue, and then we take the call. Just amazing. And I challenge anyone listening, if you have not jumped on any of my Zoom trainings where I go to work every day, I sell insurance every day. The last couple of weeks, my personal sales have taken a hit. Why? Because I've been training, I've been shadowing, I've been helping others. In this case, these two gentlemen. And they are a witness that I show up every single day when I say I'm going to show up, and very rarely do I call in sick. Is that correct, Mr. Amador?
That is absolutely correct.
I think last night we were talking about that. We were joking about, I told him, yeah, hey man, if roles were reversed, can you imagine if you did everything in your part, but then I was that manager that you call him and he's not available, or you call him and he sends you to Johnny Carpenter, who's a, manager that's been around for a month, it would be a buzzkill. So again, guys, we do show up every day to help our reps. So Gabriel, I have a couple other questions for you in terms of the lead quality. When these people are calling in, what are some of the challenges that you have faced, in your sales process? Because you're at a 21% closing ratio. I think Amador, you're over 30% in our training sessions. When you go on your own, it might drop a little bit, right? Because I've been there coaching you. Other reps are at 30. Andrew Purple's at 35%. Now, guys, this is on the first time we say hello. But Gabriel, to you, what have been some of like the challenges, sir, that you can, maybe talk to the public about, so they, especially for the new people?
Well, it took me, and I've already got this down in my head, but it took me a long time to jump in the pool, in the sense of, I'm not dipping my foot in the water to see how cold the pool is, and if it's warm, I jump in. If it's cold, you know. So if you're gonna do this, you really have to be committed and make that jump and trust the script, because it may not be what you're used to. It may not be what you said, but it's what works and it's what's proven. And as soon as you become a believer in that script is truly holy. So at this time, I just want to sharpen up my axe. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. My confidence is increasing every day.
It's awesome.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the challenge is just basically not getting in your head. You're your biggest enemy, and there's no one stopping you from being successful, and you can only control certain things. Just focus on what you can control. And for me, I'm gonna focus on improving my presentation skills and improving my closing skills and working the system. I already have the numbers backing me up, so I know
And
if
you
I
can only get better. In
repeat the
fact,
process is gonna.
here, we'll listen to a couple of your calls from yesterday. Here's one of yours, 36 minutes. Let's just listen into the first 2 minutes, because the first 2 minutes determines if it's a
Thanks for
billable.
calling Senior Life Insurance. How can I help?
Yes, I'm looking for a final expense life insurance policy.
Yes, you called the right place. Are you looking for the quote for yourself or for a family member?
So,
All right. Well, the good news is we don't require any medical exam. Just gonna ask you some.
That's 25 seconds in. And what? That person obviously, here's another one right here.
Thanks for calling Senior Life Insurance. How can I help?
I'm trying to get insurance, I believe.
Yes, you called the right place. Are you looking for the quote for yourself or for a loved one?
Myself.
Great. Well, let's see if you qualify.
Again, nothing fires me up more than hearing people calling in, wanting a quote. The rest is up to us, ladies and gentlemen. And like you heard Gabriel talk, if you can follow my sales training verbatim, step by step, this can be a great opportunity for you. But if you're looking just for a quality lead, hey, I can help you with the quality lead. But if you don't know what you're doing over the telephone, you're just going to burn through the lead. I'd rather not sell you the lead. And if you're looking at this and wondering, man, how can I get involved with these guys? It's easy. We don't charge for the training, but I do require that you join my agency, sell for my insurance company, which is Senior Life Insurance. We only sell for them. Now, I'm not a captive group. I don't tell you what to do. But I just want to show you through our example that senior life is the best way to go when it comes to selling final expense. And I can tell you guys this after over a decade of selling for them and also, receiving residual income for them. They pay the highest number of renewals, and 5 years down the road, I see 15% more people paying on that business than any of the other insurance carriers that I've helped in the past. So you got to work for the agency, the carrier, and I will train you personally. I will take my time. I will invest my time and take away from my own sales to help you. And here are two gentlemen on the phone, one that has been with me for 3 years and another one that's been with me for less than 2 weeks. And they can both agree that when I say I'm going to show up, I show up. If I tell you I'm going to train you and I'm going to help you, believe me, I'm going to do everything in my abilities to help you. And some people, their learning curve takes a little longer. My friend Jimmy Chan, it took me 2 months to train this man. So don't be nervous about that, because I am committed to helping agents that are serious. But I do require that you pay up front for your leads for the first month. Why a month? Because it takes a month for you to cycle out completely, meaning you submitted sales, you got paid for the sales. With Senior Life Insurance Company, we get paid on draft. So when the premium is paid by the client, we see our advances. Other companies pay on issue, but that doesn't mean anything to me, because regardless of the company that you go to work for, after that first month, if you don't have control of your chargeback and your sales quality, you're going to be eaten alive by chargebacks. So yeah, it was nice to see that advance money the first month when you submitted the policy, but after a month, when you start seeing the real business take shape, it doesn't matter. So we can help you. You got to pay up front for your first month in leads. That shows me you're committed. And you show up for training Monday through Friday for 1 month. And my job will be to help you sell this product. And I'll show you how to do it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And once I do that, then I'll ask you one simple question. What's holding you back from selling 20 of these a week? And what most answer is nothing. And that's the beauty of sales, that in this type of industry, you can make as much money as you want because it's you against you. If you're lazy, you're fighting that tendency to be lazy. If you like to, drink, you're fighting the tendency to drink. But if you are focused and you put in the work and you make the commitment and you deliver, there's absolutely no way you're going to fail. But again, you got to be committed. If you want to try our lead quality out, hey, try it out. By all means, you're going to love it. But why not take the training, join a company that has final expense on lockdown over the telephone, and make a bunch of money? Because with this business, not only do you make money on the first time you make the sale, but you get that long-term residual income for life of every single one of those policies. So when that person dies or, that person cancels, you're going to get paid a renewal for that policies. And our average renewal rate is about 5%, which is definitely higher than most people out there that offer FE. So with that said, my friends, I hope all of you guys have a great weekend. And Mr. Gabriel Bou, thank you once again for pouring your wisdom and your experience with everybody else, especially all those new people. And Amador, thank you also for joining us too for this training session that we have today. I thank you guys. Okay.
You're very
Anytime,
welcome.
Lotto. Thank you for the opportunity.
All I could say, if you guys are committed and you guys weed out all the bad habits, because we all have them. And when we're working virtually, it's tough. You know, think about it. You're down in South America. It's, you know, la eterna primavera, right? The eternal spring.
That's right.
Beautiful. It's beautiful down there. I mean, I could understand how you'd be, you know, out and about all over Medellin. And what do? You don't go to work. Those are the kind of things that we got to be responsible for and really take ownership, because when we're virtual agents, it's easy to get sidetracked. It's easy to do honeydews because they thinking Gabriel's working from home. Hey, let's call up Gabriel. He can do us that run, right? No. So again, this applies to all of us. All right. Well, let's have a great day, guys, in sales, and see you guys at the top. Peace.